Well, hi, my name is Lucy Stoneley, and I'm going to be telling you about my 20-time project, Portraits of a Bankrupt City. So, Detroit is bankrupt. What does that even mean? Since when could a city go bankrupt? Detroit to file for bankruptcy is the headline that traveled around the world in the summer of 2013, just a few weeks after I was told that we were moving to Detroit. At the time, I was living in South Africa, attending an American international school. Everyone had an opinion on Detroit. Even my American teachers at the international school were quick to shake their heads and say they felt sorry for me. After all, doesn't everyone know Detroit is all about unemployment and crime? Yet I instantly saw an issue with these opinions. Many of the people who jumped to criticize Detroit had never even been there. The problem was that people were judging Detroit based on stereotypes and things they'd heard. They were forming opinions about the world without seeing it through their own eyes. So eventually we moved to Grosse Pointe Park. Everything seemed perfectly normal. Beautiful neighborhood, nice school, and yet I found it hard to accept the idea of a bankrupt city that had been on my mind for the past 5 months. I felt the need to leave the Grosse Pointe bubble and explore the city of Detroit. The 20-time project became the perfect opportunity to do this. My dad had given me his old camera a few months before, and I was learning how to use it in photography class. Plus, I needed to convince my dad to drive me all around the city during the weekends, and the only way he was going to do this is if I told him it was for school. My end goal was to take all the photos I took and put them together in a book, which I called Portraits of a Bankrupt City. My original plan was to capture Detroit in all its depressing glory with pictures of rundown buildings and people, as this is what fit with my perception of the city. The negative opinions I was used to hearing had affected my own outlook. However, as we visited the city from the east side to the west side, from Eastern Market to the Heidelberg Project and everywhere in between, something began to change in me. Depressing was replaced with interesting. There were many things that changed my view of Detroit, but I will share just a few of them with you. The Heidelberg Project had a big influence on me. It stretches the definition of what constitutes art in a uniquely Detroit way. I went back enough times that I even got to meet the artist who started the project, Tyree Guyton. Sadly, most of the project has been burnt down over the past 6 months, so I feel really lucky to have been able to capture hundreds of images when I did. My next stop is Eastern Market. This was my favorite place to meet people, hear their stories, and try to capture who they were in a portrait. From butchers to artists to homeless people, everyone had a story, and I was struck by their passion and optimism for the city of Detroit. Many had experienced or were still experiencing hard times, and yet I never heard anyone wish they were somewhere else. This was their home, and they were proud of their city. And finally, there's the abandoned buildings. Yes, they're everywhere. Again, my perspective changed for seeing them for what they once represented to what they are today. I became very interested in graffiti art. You could argue that it's just vandalism, but I began to see it as something else. The abandoned buildings have become canvases for people to express themselves. The story of Detroit is written on all those brick walls. And while I began to see much beauty in the things that I photographed, there was also sadness. Broken toys or an abandoned doll in a desolate house would remind me of the kids who used to live there. Finney High School also had an impact on me. It's a huge high school, just a few miles from our own, and yet it lies there broken and abandoned. The school charter about fulfilling the dreams of the students is still written on a mural in the front entrance. The auditorium is smashed to pieces. There's a creepy feeling of walking through broken and empty classrooms where homework assignments are still written on the chalkboards, as if from the day before. Also, just as a warning, if you do decide to explore these places, I don't recommend going alone, because when I went with my dad, there was times we had to run for the car. This project also gave me the opportunity to share my work with others. I entered many of the photos I took around Detroit into art contests and even won a few awards for my portraits. It felt good to share my work with others because I wanted them to see the city the same way I did, a vibrant and unique culture that was masked by the widespread poverty and the determination of the people who suffered through it. So now the transformation is complete, from depressing to interesting to beautiful, beautiful in its own way. Not everything about Detroit is good, but I do believe that Detroit is like no other place on earth. I set out to make a book, Portraits of a Bankrupt City, but my 20-time project became something far more important than making a book. It became a journey, Not just a journey through Detroit, but also a personal journey that will stay with me forever. This project transformed me in two important ways. It taught me a valuable life lesson about the importance of forming your own opinions through personal experiences, while at the same time it made me passionate about photography. Based on my experience with this project, I would like to pursue a career as a photojournalist. I believe that first-hand experiences are important for everyone, as they will change the way you think and the way you feel for the better. The solution to the stereotypes and negativity that surround Detroit is for people to go out and explore the city for themselves, rather than just making judgments. And I found that the best way to explore new places is to apply them to something you're passionate about, whether it's volunteer work, music, or photography. And in the future, when anyone asks me about Detroit or claims that it's a hopeless place, I'm not only going to disagree with them, but I'll also tell them to go see it for themselves. Now that I have gained an honest understanding of the city, I intend to encourage others to go gain their own. All it takes is leaving the bubble and trying something new. It may seem scary, but I believe that it's necessary for anyone who wishes to understand the world beyond what they read or hear. In a few months, I move to Shanghai, China. I know that people are going to tell me it's overcrowded and polluted, but I'm not listening. To me, it's a huge city with an endless number of stories that I can't wait to explore and capture with my camera. Thank you.